Welcome back, folks, to Two Brits, One Puck. I'm your host, Mr. Intangibles, and a hot bum boy, Dan Masters, with my good friend, a man who's found the perils of flat pack furniture, and a man this week who actually used our Twitter account. Will Everett Human. Will, how you doing?
Very well, Dan. Very well. I'm feeling extremely blessed to have conquered that flat pack furniture and contributed in the world of socials. So what more could you ask for?
What more could you ask for? Okay, we better go on something hockey related quickly before Stephen Elliott turns the show off. Let's. I want to quickly discuss the Leafs selfie fan. As you sent me a message very quickly after saying you'd seen it, saying immediately you thought it was stupid. I thought it was funny the first time I saw it, but I agree the 17 times after that I got annoyed by it, but you didn't seem to enjoy it at all, ever. Why is that?
It's just some kid rolling his eyes at his sister taking a selfie. What is there to enjoy about it? It's fucking 2019, people. Like, fair play is just a kid, and there's nothing. It just, the whole thing reeks of like, oh, there she goes again taking another selfie. Like, let her go take a fucking selfie. If you're that pissed off about it, to behind her back roll your eyes and get into a huff over your shitty sports team being shit, just say no, I'm not taking a photo with you.
Mate, do you think for 1 second 16, 17, 18-year-old you, as a boy, would have had the balls to say to any girl, no, I'm not doing that? You wouldn't.
To your sister of all people, though. Like, your sister's not a girl, you know what I mean? It's different. If you're 16 and you're out on a date, that's different, but she's your sister.
I don't know, man. The girls are unpredictable, dude. You never know what's going to happen.
I don't know, I'm getting grouchier as the days go on, Dan. It's like the whole
well, welcome to being an older man. Well, this is what you have to look forward to.
I know. Like, there are so many Twitter memes that just do my absolute Swede. Fortunately, I can't remember any of the ones that have done my Swede recently, but it's getting to that point with, oh, I'm going to tell my kids this is so-and-so. Like, oh, great, you've got a picture of whatever, Meghan Trainor, and you're going to say it's Adele. That's really, really fucking funny.
The good thing about this was that it showed how quickly the internet loves something and it just tosses it in the bin as quick. Because within 12 hours, this boy had vanished, and then that was it. We'll never probably hear about it ever again. Well, so at least you have that on your side.
He's gone missing.
No, but you know what I mean.
He's been abducted.
Yeah. Maybe by you. The internet burns brightly for a few seconds.
Oh, mate,
and then,
case in point, the connection's a little bit bad, so I couldn't really hear you, and I didn't know what you were talking about for a minute until I got on to what you were talking about. So it's already so out of touch that it's not. Like, this is our first podcast since it's happened, and it's arguably been the biggest thing to happen in the hockey world this week. This made it onto like the cover, not the cover of ESPN, but like, this was massive. This is in the zeitgeist, that GIF. Whereas TNT doesn't give a shit about Mike Babcock getting fired, do they?
That's a fair point.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Lots to get on with. Should we get on with the show?
We should.
Hey everybody, it is that time of the week. It's the Smooth Recap. Congratulations to perennial playoff Game 7 choker Steven Stamkos, who netted his 400th career goal this week. I'm sure this statistic more than makes up for last season.
Darcy Kemper was pulling out all the stops for his AEW wrestling audition, hitting Matt Kachuk with a perfectly executed belly-to-back suplex.
The new GOAT, trademark, and Mr. Mount Rushmore, trademark, isn't only an amazing player, but he's one tough son of a bitch as well, playing through a sports hernia just to help his team. Sidney Crosby, what a guy.
Eric Johnson claimed the referee's inaction over the Matt Calvert incident this week was fucking bullshit, but yet again claimed to be an example of an NHL player not calling out their own for the inactivity of the Vancouver Canucks players who continued to play as Calvert was bleeding from his brain box on the ice.
With a new Batman film on the horizon, TJ Oshie should be considered for the role of Mr. Freeze. as he is 44 for 83 in shootouts in his career. It's the highest shooting percentage of any player in NHL history, with at least 60 attempts. Oshie clearly has the ice under his feet and in his veins.
For young players, it can be quite hard to adjust to the NHL from junior, but some players get it quicker than others. Finally, Connor McDavid seems to have worked it out, as he has 2 hat-tricks and a 6-point night within the same week.
Brad Marchand had himself a night in Toronto in the Hall of Fame game against the Leafs. He set an NHL record by scoring his 7th goal in the opening 15 seconds of a period, and at the end of the game is presented with the Player of the Game trophy. He then takes a victory lap with the trophy, as the Leaf fans get to see something hoisted above their heads for the first time since 1967.
Similarly, on the subject of incredible players, Zach Ronaldo is back in the NHL, for whatever that's worth.
Sexy times ahead in Montreal, as Phillip Deneau scores in literally every sense of the word, as he successfully fucks a puck into the net.
Goalies have been given an early leave of absence after Marc-Andre Fleury of the Vegas Golden Knights has, without a doubt, performed the save of the year.
And that was your smooth recap. Yeah, shout out to Flower. Oh my god.
Jesus fucking Christ.
It reminded me, do you remember that David Seaman save in the FA Cup against Sheffield United?
No, I don't, because whenever someone says David Seaman, you know exactly what I see in my head.
No, I don't.
He's backpedaling, he's waving above his head, and then some buck-toothed Brazilian is running around in that blue and silver strip with his arms out. I think that's the most vivid footballing memory seared into my brain for whatever reason. That and Freddie Ljungberg scoring against Chelsea in 2002, the FA Cup final. No, I don't remember that Seaman save.
Oh well, it was essentially that, but for football. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Just a goal all ends up, and I don't know how Flower did that. It's just insane.
There are so many people trying to... I say so many people. I've seen one person trying to disparage it by saying, it was a floater of a shot, like the shot wasn't all that. It's like, get to fuck. That save was just magic. Literal magic.
Have you seen the still shot of him stretched out?
Yeah, like Superman.
He is. I mean, that's how good that save is. That's how much effort went into it. Is that he is stretched out literally as far as he can, and that puck is at the end. It's right at the end of his reach. There's nowhere else. I mean, anywhere else that puck is in. Even if it goes a bit further past his reach, it bounces off and goes in. You know, it bounces off his hand and goes in. He's at the actual limit he can get, and he just snags it. Oh my god, fantastic, amazing,
beautiful, beautiful work.
Who's winning the cup this week?
I'm glad you asked me that, because Marc-Andre Fleury is going to win the cup this week. for his, I'm sure you've seen this floating around in the last few days, the multi-time murders of Mike Babcock. Have you seen the side-by-sides for this?
Yeah, 2009 to 2019.
Yeah, 10 years apart, same difference. That beautiful save on Nick Lidstrom and the save on Nick Petan. Slightly different consequences from both of those
Slightly
saves,
different,
but arguably of equal magnitude. You know, like, getting fired is probably worse than being a runner-up in the Stanley Cup final. Similar amount of heartbreak, I'd imagine.
That's a great choice. A great choice. I've got a very simple and boring one this week. Who's winning the cup? The best team in the NHL is winning the cup, and that is the New York Islanders. With a 15 game point streak.
I prefer 11 game point streaks personally.
Yeah,
in the harder of the two conferences.
What's amazing about the Islanders is I'm gonna see if this is trademarked, but I'm calling it a Lego system. Everyone's just plug and go. Like, just stick a brick in, it fits, go. Off you go. Like I said the other week, they were missing 6 forwards at one point. Who cares?
And they're still carrying
amazing
on
stuff.
Tonight.
It's that kind of, the Islanders, 2 scorers tonight were Bert Smithson, Jeremy Trotterson, and you just think, who are these players? Like, they're just plugging in these guys, and they seem to fit, and they just know their role, they do their job. And I had questions at the start of the season about the goalie. You know, is Varlamov going to fit in okay? Yeah, goalies haven't missed a step, still playing fine. The goalie magic is still there. What if they never lose?
They probably will.
Yes, thank you.
I'm really reluctant to say it, but I think we're having to start coming around on the fact that the Islanders are at the very least an effective team, and I don't know how long is it until it's a fluke. Like one season is can just be a fluke, but what, season and a half? If they're still smashing it at the trade deadline, they might actually be a good team.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we've said before, but the Jack Adams winner is a good coach. Who could have predicted that?
Cool. Would you look at that? There's got to be an argument for 2 in a row, no?
Yeah, but you know what it's like. It ends up being one of those things where, well, he can't win it 2 years in a row because someone else has to have a chance of winning it.
It'll be Dave Tippett if the Oilers make the playoffs.
I'll tell you who's winning the Jack Adams. Sheldon Keefe's winning the Jack Adams. When he, when the narrative is on 21st of November 2019, the Leafs were points percentage wise technically the 23rd best team in NHL or something, and then they make the playoffs.
To be fair,
rookie head coach.
Have you seen those stats of when he took over the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds in the OHL?
We'll talk about this later.
Oh, it's a good time to get the stat in.
Okay, go on then.
Just quickly, so the Sioux had, I think it was like, they went from like a 46% Corsi to like a 57% Corsi before and after Keefe got hired midway through the season with the same roster. So like the geezer, it would appear, is legit.
We'll talk about that later.
Well, I'm sure we will. Relegating this week, Dan. I'm gonna relegate Zach Ronaldo. No, not Zach Ronaldo. The Flames for Zach Ronaldo. It's not Zach Ronaldo's fault, you shit, necessarily. I'm gonna relegate the Flames for thinking that Zach Ronaldo can do anything to help them compared to anybody else on their AHL roster. There was a fantastic tweet that had, you know, the sort of play-by-play stuff you get in the NHL app. It's part of the box score, where it's like hit by whoever, shot by whoever. As a beautiful little screen cap, a minute 47 into the period or whatever, it says hit by Zach Ronaldo on whoever, and then 20 seconds later it was goal by the other team. Chef's kiss, perfect.
I'm going to relegate the Buffalo Sabres and one of their beat writers, Bill Hopp, who wrote on Twitter this week, "This is going to be the Sabres' 8th loss in 9 games. Hard to believe they've fallen so hard so fast after a terrific October." Stay with me here for a second, Bill. Is it
your first year on the job, buddy?
Is it? Yeah, is this your first year watching hockey? Because I think, call me crazy here, we may have seen this story before somewhere.
I hope this happens forever now. Just forever. Like the Sabres are just incredible in October and then combust. Mate, all these people coming out saying Rasmus Dahlin shouldn't have been the first overall pick.
Oh, I do love revisionist history. It's the best.
Nothing I love more. Isn't that fantastic? God bless them. And the Canucks are coming down to earth and just waiting for the Oilers, really, and then we can all go back to our scheduled programming.
Exactly. It is like we said before. What's the point till Christmas anyway? Who cares? How many starts and scratches you got?
I got 1 starter and 2 scratches.
All right, I've got 5 starters and 1 scratch.
Fucking Christ! How can you be happy about that many things in the world this week?
I don't know. It's very troubling for me, especially with my, as I've mentioned before, my cold black heart that runs my life, which you're now seemingly inheriting with your flat pack disaster and your hatred of all things memes.
1 flat pack TV unit and it's just killed me.
Yeah. I'll rattle off 3 quick ones though.
I do think, just before you do, I do think that my starter, the fact that you've got so many, is probably going to end up on your starters because it's just such an incredible thing. But crack on and we'll find out.
Okay. I'm going to stop the lady in the Austin Matthews case who's been paid off. Good for her. I hope she got a shit ton of money.
Do we know how much money?
No idea. But it does lead me to a question. If you were her, what would you ask for to be paid off?
I mean, I do not. I don't even know. I don't even know. It's like if someone asked me to guess how much, I don't know, a yacht cost or whatever. I've just got no frame of reference for what would be what you could ask for. Like, is 50 grand would be good, but is 50 grand lowballing it? Should you be asking?
I was going to say 50 grand. That's weird.
But it feels like you should ask for more than that.
Yeah, I know.
500 grand. That sounds
give me
too
$500,000.
I don't know.
How much was your bonus again, Austin, on July 1st? give me 10% of that. I'll do. I'll walk away, Austin. That's fine.
How much would you be earning if you were bought out, Austin? I will take that much. Thank you very much.
If I go really hard on this case and you have to go to prison, how much would that cost, Austin? Let's think about that, shall we?
As if.
Anyway.
Or rather, how much would it cost you to fight it and then end up going to prison and not go to prison? Let's settle on that, and you can keep your reputation as well.
Yeah, exactly.
200 grand, I'll be happy.
Yeah, that's a good, that's a decent number. My second starter is, I don't know if you saw this or not, but in Iraq at the moment, there are clashes between police and anti-government protesters. And the police decided they were bringing in the riot squad, tear gas, there was police dogs, all that kind of thing. So one of the protesters went back and then turned up later with a lion.
Oh, yeah.
Which is amazing. A fucking lion.
Yeah, that's just mad. I saw the picture. I don't know, do we know if that lion ended up killing that guy?
I don't know. I just like the idea of the police on the walkie-talkie. Excuse me, sir. There's a lion here.
Do you reckon they use police horses in Iraq?
I don't know.
Wait.
I mean, if people have got lines of pets, maybe they don't have police horses. Maybe they have I don't know, griffins or something.
Griffins. Are we the only country that uses police horses still?
No, we can't be.
Yeah, but we definitely could be though.
Yeah, we could.
You only ever see the horses out for football, really, don't you?
That's true. Maybe police horses is our version of not having guns. So maybe in America or something, it's like, get back, I've got a gun. In our country, it's now, stop this now, boys, I'll get my horse.
I'm on a horse. Okay, that's very, very British way of doing it. Do you remember the Newcastle fan a few years ago punched a horse?
Punched a horse? Yeah, if you can find everyone, this is one of those homework things I sometimes give you. If you can find it, find the Newcastle United fan punching the horse.
and just as a disclaimer, much like any film involving animals, no horses were injured during the punching of this horse. Just that's very true. Fat Geordie with a broken hand.
And then I'll do one more starter, which is I'm gonna go with Josh Rieger. University of North Dakota defense. Okay, you didn't have that one. Okay, good. The University of North Dakota defenseman wasn't meant to be playing in a game in Denver. So instead of going to the game with the rest of his team, him and his friend, who was also not playing, went to a local eatery and ordered a pound of chicken wings. And just as they're tucking in and finishing them off, he gets a call saying, "Actually, we need you. One of the players is ill." So he rushes down there with a pound of chicken wings rummaging around in his tummy, and scores the game winner, and it was his first ever career goal. Great story.
Big up to you, Josh. Big up. It's a good way to do it.
What have you got?
My lone scratch, the only starter I need this week, Dan. I'm probably going to butcher his last name, is Joe Malin, or Joe Malin. Do you know old Joe?
Yeah.
Plays for the Harlequins, and he had potentially the most iconic sports interview ever that's been doing the rounds on the old Twitters this last couple of days.
It's beautiful.
It's incredible. For anyone who hasn't seen it, you need to check it out. He's talking about
speaking of horses.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking. It's all worked out perfectly. So he's talking about, did they just lose one game, or are they on a bit of a skid? Do you know?
To be honest, I don't know. Either way,
don't know, don't care. Some bad stuff happened to Harlequins Rugby Football Club, and
yes.
Old Joe felt he needed to address it. Goes on this rambling. Absolute rambling anecdote about leading a horse to water. So it's like, standard sort of stuff. He's talking about, it needs to be better. It's like you can lead a horse to water, and then when that horse gets there, he has to decide whether he wants to be better, or whether he wants to drink the water or go for a swim. And he gets right in, and it's just absolute rambling nonsense that ends up with the horse going to the Harlequins' home pitch and apologising to the fans, and he does this Irish horse voice. Like an Irish impression with nays mixed in. All with the straightest face. And then the after he's done with his babbling, the interviewer asks, "Also, how about you, Joe? Are you going to get back on that horse?" And he says, "No, I don't like horses. I can't ride."
Oh, it's amazing.
The kid is a fucking lunatic.
Okay, everyone, it's your second piece of horse homework for this week. You've got to find this. You've got to find this. It's sporting gold.
Mate.
Gold.
Oh my god. Like, it's one of those things that you appreciate it when you see it, but until you talk to somebody about it, until you actually vocalise how ridiculous the thing is, it doesn't hit you just how
It's like your
ludicrous
favourite. It's like your favourite movie, your favourite funny movie. You just end up quoting it with your mates over and over and over
Yeah,
again.
and then
There
you
are
just
so
dying
many
about it.
lines in this interview. There's so many lines in it that are just creasing. I must have watched it 5 times already. It's so good.
Oh, mate. Oh, Jesus Christ. What was he? Was he one of your starters?
No, it wasn't.
For shame, Dan. For shame.
I know. I'm terrible. I'm terrible. All right, my next starter. Will, quick question. What do the Blackhawks, Blue Jackets, Penguins, Kings, Stars, Islanders, Senators, and Ducks have in common?
It's not about streaks, is it? Like 7. I know them.
No.
I don't know. They're all hockey teams.
They've all scored less power play goals than David Pasternak.
Oh,
so far
mate,
this season.
yes. What is he on, 10 now?
Yeah, he's got 10.
10 power play goals alone. How many has he got? 5 and 5? Or
17, I think. I think he's on.
17 total.
17 goals so
Yeah,
far.
not 10 power play and then 17 at even strength. So
not another 17.
27 goals, like 20 games into the season. Still 17 goals. Mate,
That's one of those ones that, as I'm saying it probably doesn't seem that crazy, but when you look at it on a list, and shout out to future friend of the show, Dmitry Filipovich, for putting a list, but he tweeted out a list of most power play goals so far this season.
That
and it
was
was all
beautiful.
teams. And you had to do a double take. Oh my god, Pasternak's in there, in that list. It was like a magic eye picture. And then and I was like, oh, there he is.
Mate, it's absolutely 19 goals in total, that boy has.
19, there we go.
Absolutely destroying it. Dominating.
And my last starter is, I've got to start my mum, because Moneypuck released the power score list, which shows an NHL's team's chances of beating an average team on a normal day. And the Penguins were second on the list. And I made a joke that the Pens had done a great job and he'd used more men than my mum after her divorce. So, and I got a very good response to it. So even in death, the old girl is providing the laughs. So thank you, Mum. I appreciate it.
Big up, Mum. Pouring out for you.
There you go. All right, you've got 2 scratches, yeah?
I do. Two scratches. You've just got the one, haven't you?
Indeed, you go first.
Who do I want to pick first? I'm going to scratch Brian Burke first. Big old double B, big old Berkey.
Interesting.
His opinions on what system a certain team should be playing. Let me just read out the points of his system, the finer points. Dump the puck in. Not a good start there, Brian. Forecheck relentlessly, which is fine. That's absolutely fine. Work the puck from low to high. So what he's saying there is get the puck in deep and then work it back out to the D-men, and shoot from distance, hoping the puck hits arses or ankles. Firstly, thank you very much to Sean Tierney at Charting Hockey for bringing this to my attention. And secondly, for fuck's sakes, Brian Burke, for fuck's sakes, no. Especially when he's talking about the Leafs, you've got such a highly skilled team, or basically any team really. This is going to link into a point I'm going to bring up after my second scratch. Why would you decide to play such a shit brand of hockey that is ineffective? You don't have to do that. The Leafs aren't a team that have to play like that. Arguably, their decor is their weakest point of it. Like, Brian Burke's just making himself look like a mug on the international stage. So he gets scratched for it, Dan.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I feel that it's the classic, well, as maybe Babcock proved, is that the old way is the best way and there's no other way to do it, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like these 60-year-old men don't have a clue how to play anymore because they haven't been able to fit their skates over their swollen diabetic feet for 20 years.
Damn. Wow, that was cutting. I like that. Milo and Scratch has to be Garnet Hathaway for spitting on Eric Branson.
Oh, are we doing more on this in a bit, or is this it?
We're doing more on this right now. Right now.
Excellent.
Because I'm gonna shout out the girls from the Saucy Rockets, a hockey podcast. They were the first I saw to put up a poll that said, "Would you rather get put in a fight, or would you rather get punched or spit on?" So I'm just gonna ramble a little bit about this first, and then obviously, I'll let you jump in after. But
like scheduled rambling, I'm gonna just say some incoherent things loosely related to this topic.
Yeah,
as
I like to do on this show. I know this is my stupid male brain talking, but if you want to get into a fight with me, that's fine. I think somewhere subconsciously, deep inside any man's brain, he's kind of aware that at some point he might have to get into a fight. An actual fight with fists, and
as opposed
to, I don't know, like a scuffle or like a shoving match or something, a proper fight with your fists. So I think that if I'm aware that that might happen at some point in my life, I accept the fact that maybe at some point in my life one of those fists is going to connect with my face or my gut, and it's going to hurt. I don't know if you've ever been in a fight, Will. I was in a couple of fights back in the day when I was an idiot and I was, drinking and everything. It was very stupid. It is not a bravado thing, because afterwards you just think, well, that was fucking stupid. That was really idiotic. And I genuinely can remember two occasions where I've been in fight, and 10 minutes later, me and the guy who I'd had a fight with were having a beer and laughing about it, saying how stupid it was. Like, why did we do that? I can't remember now. It was something silly, blah, blah, blah. If you spit on me, all bets are off. That's it. I think spitting on someone is reserved for if they kill your family and then you beat them to death. Then you spit on them. Because for me, it's just, and I can't explain it, it's definitely a subconscious thing. A man spitting on another man in a fight is so low, and the word's not even cheap. It's worse than that. It's not even degrading. It's worse than that. And I'm not, oh Christ, I would hope this podcast shows that I'm not a macho, like rah dude. I'm just not.
I don't know, you just bragged about having a fight and a beer, so that's pretty macho if you ask me.
It's like 20 years ago. I said it was stupid.
And you're still riding on the coattails of that one fight.
Like if for some reason, I don't know why, if I for some reason got into a fight with one of my friends, I wouldn't, I think I could still come back from that with that friend. But if one of those friends spit at me, that's it. I mean, we're done forever. I can't really explain it other than what I've just tried to do, but I think it's incredibly low and disgusting. Your thoughts, Will?
So I'm going to counter that with saying I'm Team Hathaway. I think he had no choice. He was backed into a corner. No, like it's minging, isn't it? Like, that's the thing with spitting on someone. It's minging. It's minging. That's dangerous. Like, it is dangerous. Who knows what sort of head cold guy Hathaway could be dealing with that he's now given Eric Branson. It's very selfish of him. All jokes aside, the thing that's perplexed me about the backlash to, especially to the suspensions, he's got 3 games for spitting, which it's just not even just saying it, spitting on someone. It's like, mate, come on,
I know,
behave yourself. And like everyone's saying, 3 games for spitting, but you get 1 game for a hit to the head or whatever, or like, what about the guy who sucker punched him? Yeah, the 2 things aren't mutually exclusive on the bad scale. Like, we shouldn't be sucker punching people in the head. We shouldn't be checking people into the boards face first and stuff. Just because player safety and the referees have failed to reprimand the other players for their transgressions on a more physical side doesn't mean that Garnet Hathaway should be in any way admonished for spitting on Eric Branson like that. It's heinous behaviour. And as much as I'm sure people will appreciate, I'm not the biggest fan of the violent side of the game, body checking and punching are part hockey. Like, spitting is not part of anything. Spitting is absolutely disgusting, no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, what your gender, race, credence, whatever it might be. Like, do not spit on anybody else. Do not even spit in people's direction. That is just, it's just not on at all. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah, it's horrendous, and people are absolutely right in the fact that there should have been some other discipline for the awful hit. Who took the hit? Was it Leipzig or Hathaway? Whoever it was.
I think it was Leipzig, yeah.
I want to say, whoever took the hit, because Gabranson gave the hit, like, Gabranson should have got suspended as well. And, yeah, there should have been discipline for the sucker punch, but just because there was a failing in one instance doesn't mean we can't be horrified at the behaviour of Garnet Hathaway. No, you're right though. There is some next level with spitting that is just reprehensible.
Yeah, it's next level dirty, like trash. It's trash. It's trash behaviour.
What if someone pissed on you in a fight?
In what way?
In a fight.
I was gonna say. I'm sure we've both been to Amsterdam, mate. It's seen way worse than that.
I feel if someone peed on me in a fight, it's almost impressive. Isn't the right word, but there's a feat to there is some skill to be able to urinate on someone during a fight. Spitting's low effort. That's the problem with spitting. Anyone can spit.
Do you know what it is? I'm not. Christ almighty, is it any wonder women think we're dumb? Is it any wonder women think men are just fucking idiots? We've gone from, yeah, I'll take a punch in the face. Spitting, you are fucking kidding me. But if you pissed on me, all right, mate, fair play. I've got to give you...
hats off to you.
Hats off to you, mate. Like, the guy pissed on me. I mean, what? It's a power move. What can I do?
What can you do? I feel like
how has this species ever gone anywhere? Fucking... It's amazing women still look at us as, like men in general. Fucking hell. We're so stupid.
The thing with like pissing on someone mid-fight, yeah, it's a bit Charles Bronson, isn't it? It's a bit Gigi Allen. Like in the age-old thing, like if you're about to have a fight with someone, like just start headbutting the wall and punching the wall or something, and they're like, "Come on!" and just try and like intimidate them off. If you're like Charles Bronson would pee on someone during a fight, wouldn't he?
Oh yeah, for sure,
blatantly.
That's because he was a man's man, though. Will,
it's true. Same with Gigi Allen and two of the most ferocious people that have ever walked this earth. So if it's good enough for Gigi, then it's good enough for me.
Fucking hell. All right, just quickly, last thing on this. There was obviously the Brad Marchand licking comparison.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's right, isn't it? It is right.
Yeah, it is right. It is right. It's just as bad. It's just as bad licking somebody as it is spitting on somebody.
Based. I don't know why, but licking's funnier than spitting, isn't it?
Sure, it is.
It just is.
But you know what? I can imagine players safety when they watch that Martian video, just all rolling around like creasing, laughing, and then they watch that Hathaway stuff and like, oh, that's disgusting. That's fucking disgusting. 3 games.
So, because as soon as I saw someone make that comparison, I was like, oh, fuck, you're absolutely right. But I haven't made that link in my head because I'm still just a pea-brain Neanderthal.
And your last scratch?
My last scratch is going to be Brandon Prost for relatively similar reasons to Brian Burke. Brandon Prost was, I say quoted, he put it out on Twitter. I'll quote it verbatim. Imagine that at Maple Leafs picked an actual hockey GM when they had the chance. They'd be a contender right now with Mark Hunter. Brandon, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
I thought you were going to come out with some like wise words then, or some tome.
Why would you?
About, mate?
Why would you respond to such idiocy with wise words? Like, Kyle Dubas is not the problem in Toronto. The construction of that team is not the problem in Toronto, and this tie in with what?
Oh, there's a hot take.
Mate, okay. Here it is.
No, we can't. We're getting onto it. We're going to get onto it like right after the interview.
No. I'm not gonna necessarily touch on Babcock, but what I texted you about earlier, systems and stuff.
Oh yeah, the problem with parity, everyone thinks their kung fu is the best.
Yeah, that's what I said to Dan earlier, and what I meant by that was tying into Brian Burke and tying into what Brandon Prost is really saying about why he thinks Mark Hunter would have been a better GM than Kyle Dubas is he's alluding to the fact that Dubas has relied too much on skill in the construction of the team, whereas Mark Hunter would have had a team that is more fitting of the Brian Burke model, a la toughness over skill. In the Premier League and in football in general, the best teams play a highly skilled game. The equivalent of dump and chase or tough hockey, big body hockey in football is the long ball. Do you think that's fair to say, Dan?
Very fair. A perfect comparison between the two sports.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So obviously the long ball is just hoofing it down to your large man at the top, who then takes the ball down and tries to get a scoring chance from there, thus eliminating the skill part of the game of having to move the ball from your end of the pitch to the other pitch with skill and passing and speed and stuff just by kicking it really far, or dumping it from the red line and then chasing after it. So the thing with long ball and dump and chase, in the NHL, dump and chase is seen as a sort of an acceptable strategy by 200 hockey men because of parity, whereas in the Premier League and football at large, the good teams play a skill game, high passing, high energy, whatever it is, do not default to their equivalent of dump and chase, because that's how you get success. Dump and chase, the long ball is used by bad teams because they know they're not good enough to play a skilled game. What's the word? It's like bunting in cricket or baseball or something. Like, it's a safe option. Right, we're going to try and not lose. We're going to play to what strengths we have. Everybody in football wants to be able to play a highly skilled game. Like, skill in football is not a taboo, whereas in hockey, skill is a taboo. And I think the fact that taboo has been able to be perpetuated is by the parity created by this league. So you get teams that can play dump and chase when they should, which shouldn't be a successful strategy, and then squeeze into the playoffs, and then getting into the playoffs is automatically some level of success. So it absolutely drives me balmy when people are saying, "Oh, there's too much skill on this team. This team isn't tough enough," or whatever. It's moronic, and it's going to keep this sport latched into this barbaric 1950s style of hockey where we still think, all due respect to Gordie Howe, Gordie Howe, playing the game the right way, you got to score a goal and punch a guy in the face or else you're not a good hockey player. Like, it's going to keep this sport back from not only further revenues for the league, more fans, more diversity within the fan base, and a better product, as long as we think that toughness is more valuable than skill, and that skill is a bad thing to have.
Okay, we haven't got time for this, but I do disagree a little bit.
Of course you do.
Only a little bit. I
Yeah.
agree with you more than I disagree with you. But again, we will. This will end up us going around in circles, and we're going to save that for a day when there's kind of less news. Maybe in the off season. Maybe this is an off season. Put this in my light bulb file for the off season, and we'll discuss why I think you're right, but also kind of wrong.
Should we just skip to the end of that discussion where we're talking about why
Tom Wilson and Ryan Reeves?
I was going to say why I think Leon Draisaitl is a better player than Ryan Reeves, and why you disagree.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah, I've
okay. Yeah, we'll have to leave that there.
In case you couldn't tell.
No, yeah, we'll have to leave that there for now, but we will come back to it. Okay. Before we do get to our new guest and the news, we are on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and everywhere else you choose to let us two goons talk broken biscuits. A 5-star review on iTunes is good for us, and doing so can guarantee you an entry into a prize draw where you can win nothing. So make sure you do it.
You helped me for a second there.
On to our guest this week. It's a bit of a different one, but Will and I have said for the longest time that we wanted to get fans involved in the show. A Habs fan lives in Montreal called Ken got in touch and said there's some things. Yep, big up to Ken, big up Dysonsphere. I wanted to come on the show and talk to you about living in Montreal, what it means to be a Habs fan, the Montreal-Toronto rivalry where it all comes from, and all that kind of thing. And we said, yeah, it sounds like a great idea. He was really good. It's good for us to have people on who live in the area, because there are things me and Will just don't know living. Like, we don't live in a hockey... The entirety of our country is not even a hockey market, let alone the town we live in or the city we live in. So to have somebody on from a hockey town is a good thing. If you're a fan, you want to be on the show, want to discuss your team or anything about hockey, please do get in touch. Anyway, here he is, Ken Dyson.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm pretty good. It's been quite the day. I started off by wiping out on an electric bike,
Oh,
but now it's ending up with talking to somebody about hockey in Great Britain. So that's pretty awesome.
I was going to say, so your day started off bad and it's just got gradually worse then.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's deteriorated to the point where I'm on the phone with you. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just get into it then. You mentioned in your DM to me that you were an avid Habs fan. Obviously, you grew up in that market, crazily into hockey, and your kind of fandom has waned over the years. Why is that?
Okay, I don't know. So I guess the context was like, how was I a Habs fan to begin with? I guess would be a good way to get into it. So it's kind of like actually before birth, because if you're born in Montreal, it's like, I don't know, it's like a weird, it's kind of quasi-religious thing. And so I'm like a first generation Canadian. So my parents were both immigrants. And so their families moved here when they were young, like teenager, I guess, like preteen. And my dad's side of the family is from Italy. And when I was born, or when my mom wanted me to have an English sounding name, and so that I would fit in, you know. But like it being in Quebec, I'm not so sure. But I'm pretty sure she thought maybe we were going to move to New York or something like her cousins did. But anyway, so she wanted me to have an English name, and my nona, so my father's mother, was having none of it. It's like all my cousins' names end in O's or A's, right? So, so she was having none of it. So she was not going to have. She was like Stephen, no. Kevin, no. Keith, no. And then my mom said Ken, and she was like, "Oh, Ken, like Ken Dryden." Yeah, sure, of course. So, and I'll date myself. I was born in 1972, so that was just like Ken Dryden came out and won the Rookie of the Year, the Calder Trophy before winning the Conn. Yeah, so he won a Conn Smythe before he won the Calder Trophy. And then it ended up, so my dad would have his friends over, play poker on Saturday nights, and I was serving out beers at the age where I was able to carry them to his friends, and in the smoky haze there was always Hockey Night in Canada on, so it was just part of life, The Canadians are something that kind of unites a lot, like, because Montreal is a city of immigrants, and it kind of unites everybody together. Like, there's French and English, there's Italian, Portuguese, Greek, whatever, and everybody, just gets together under the Habs banner, and it's our team. So, I mean, I think in that respect, to not be a Canadiens fan is to be super contrarian. So if you want to be like the prick at school who says that they're a Bruins fan, you know what I mean? That's kind of the thing, and like my next door neighbor was a Flyers fan. It's like, why are you a Flyers fan? It makes no sense. Like, you have no connection to that. But I think it's just to be contrarian.
I see.
But I guess maybe other people they have, like, maybe their dad was a big Bobby Orr fan or something growing up. So, but a lot of it just happens because of your accident of birth. I mean, I think that's how a lot of things in life end up being anyways. Like, I'm a big proponent of this moral luck theory, that we just end up doing things because of things that happened to us in the past that were totally beyond our control. So beyond my control, I became a Habs fan. And I guess it just, there was just like the habit, and I would hang out with friends, and it would be like the 93 Cup run was like one of the best times of my life. In 93, I was like, 24 or something. And so it was big party time, and we had a great time. And I did not riot. But I witnessed the riot. In those times, I was like, I knew where every player came from and what junior team they played for. I was like the Pierre Maguire, the Montreal Canadiens. And, life gets in the way after a while. Yes. And, I've got a wife and kids and stuff, and and a job, and I did a PhD. And through all of that, the fandom sort of waned. And also I think it's also the lack of connection with the actual teams now, with how corporate it is and how much money is involved in it, how much of a business it is, kind of put a sour taste in my mouth. And even like, we had a baseball team, a Major League Baseball team in Montreal that folded because of corporate greed. And that really broke my heart, because I was a big fan of the Montreal Expos as well.
Yes.
Yeah, so all of that kind of just completely took the mystique out of being a fan of like being a sports fan. And then I think I started to get back into it when my son started getting really interested in sports. And so I started coaching when he was really young and getting interested in how you put teams together. And he played baseball and hockey. And so then when he gets interested in watching the games too, because, he wants to see but he becomes a fan. So then I was watching with him, and then now we're both fans together, but we're not living and dying by Canadians winning or losing anymore like I was back when I was a teen.
Yeah, I've always said that. I've said this forever. Sports fandom is so strange because you're essentially just rooting. It's a classic. It's a Jerry Seinfeld joke, but you're rooting for your jerseys to beat the other jerseys.
Exactly, and
it's not even the players, because the players all change. The coaches change. Everything changes except that jersey.
And the other thing I was just thinking just before we came on, it was like, if I'm rooting for the Canadians to win, basically I'm rooting for the Molson family to become richer. I mean, that's pretty much all it is. You're rooting for the Jacobs family to be richer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just and it's not even the players, like people often say like, oh, I can't relate to these players because they make millions of dollars. It's like, they're putting their livelihood on the line every time they get on the ice. Like they could seriously get injured. Like, I mean, it's crazy in NFL football. I can't watch it. It disgusts me. But it's just day after day of concussions and all these like serious injuries they could be getting you. There's a recent book, I don't know, it's a few years old, I guess, that Ken Dryden wrote about the life of Steve Montador.
Oh, okay.
And so he has this narrative of how like the game has gotten off the rails in terms of how dangerous it is regarding concussions and CTE.
Yes.
And he frames it over the life of this, quite a fringe player. Like he wasn't a star. He was never a star, but he, won a Stanley Cup, but was always like just trying to stay on the team. And he has to do whatever it takes to stay on the team. And whatever it takes for him was getting into fights, and being that physical force. And, it just talks about the physical and mental toll it takes on a person to do that. And eventually he ended up having a lot of substance abuse issues and finally committed suicide. So I can't say that, the players are being overpaid. It's ridiculous what they do. And if I was in the spot of being able to do something that what they do is miraculous. Yeah. Otherwise we wouldn't be watching it. And, I would take the money. And they're making the owners even richer. It's just, I don't know. I'm going to get into politics if I get even further into this because, I would like to have it where all the revenue across the league was shared, and the players would get percent. Like you wouldn't have a salary cap. You'd get like, well, this player gets 40, like 22% of the total revenue because of his attributes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
But that's never going to happen. I mean, I live in a dream world sometimes. But then in that case, you wouldn't have like, you would have more parity, and you would be able, like, if you would build a team, you would build a team based on like a financial. I hate to like even put financial terms on a person, because that's what you're doing. You're like having a person be worth a certain amount of money, and to me that's ridiculous. You would put together a team based on a more level playing field. Like, like, oh, the salary cap's not going to change next year, and I'm gonna have to save this much for the cap, and even as it is right now, you can't get players in Canada as easily as in, say, Florida or Texas, because they don't tax their players.
Yeah.
And over here, if you're making $1 million, half of that is going to the government, or probably even more. So the salary cap doesn't even make sense. There is no level playing field even with the salary cap. So I think the salary cap ruined the NHL, and anyway, that's another story.
The only issue with that then is that you get a situation, I guess, you don't want it to turn into soccer where...
Oh, right, yeah.
Because obviously, I don't know if you follow it or not, but obviously every league across the world, except for, I think, in Major League Soccer, I think, you can just buy a player for an amount of money. You just give another team, here's £100 million, we want this player, and they say, okay then, and that's it. That's why the rich teams stay the richest teams, I guess. percentage-based cap sort of would work better, but I think
it's not going to happen because the Jacobs family wants to be richer than the Molson family. They don't want to share with them. It's not going to work.
Billionaires fighting for each other, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Space.
I kind of like the model they use. I think it's Irish in hurling, right? Hurling's that like kind of field hockey game they play. Like it's kind of like lacrosse.
Yeah, we call it murder ball. Because
murder ball, exactly.
Yeah, it's just insanity. Hurling, God, you couldn't give me enough money to play hurling. It's insane.
I know. I work with a bloke who is on the Canadian national hurling team, if you can believe there is one.
Wow, I did not know that.
And so he went to Ireland this year for the World Cup, I guess, and they did very poorly. But I think in hurling in the Irish league, it's the guys are just like from that town.
Yes, they are.
And you're from that town, you play for that town's team, and that's it. And you're actually rooting for guys that are in your own town. I mean, that's not going to happen with hockey. I mean, it's a world sport. But we need to do something. There has to be something to have more of a real connection to the team. And I mean, for me, the connection is my childhood. So I mean, it's not going to get erased. So I'm always going to be. I'm not going to be a fair weather fan, you know. That's why I don't. So this is a question. How did you guys pick your teams? I know like Will is a Stars fan, right? And so you're a Bruins fan. So how does someone in the UK pick a team in North America?
It normally comes via any means necessary. And me and Will have said this before, is that there is no ideally you would go back to yourself when you decide to pick a team and say, don't pick a team, just watch the sport and enjoy it, because picking a team is stupid. As I've already said, there's no reason to actually pick a team, especially if you're not from that area or even the same country, for crying out loud. But to be honest, I cannot remember Will's story because, he drones a lot and, he's like... Anyway.
You just tune out.
Yeah. I'm normally thinking of something else or watching a fly when he's talking. I had a Sega Genesis and I was into the NFL at the time because a friend of mine who was older liked American football. And I thought, if I like American football, he might like me more. So I got into American football because of an older guy who lived on our street. I think he was like 3 or 4 years older than me. And I got a Sega Genesis and I got a copy of John Madden 94. And with it came a copy of EA Hockey 94.
Oh my God. I played that game so much.
Oh yeah, I played it to death. And so put the cartridge in, played the game. I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. Now, obviously, way back then, I mean, there wasn't even satellite television, cable, internet. There was nothing. We had 4 channels. That was it. There was a sports program on a station called Channel 4. And there was a sports program on called Trans World Sport. And it just showed highlights of all sports all over the world. For everything. From, like you say, hurling to kabaddi to American football to ice hockey to whatever. And I would see ice hockey highlights on Trans World Sport. So I always just kind of kept up with it that way. But I never got to see games, never got to see anything really. And then, oh God, I can't remember what year it was I picked the Bruins. But when we started to get the internet, like in every house, and we had it, obviously then you can find streams and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And people would put games online, like they would record games and put them online somehow the day after and all this kind of thing.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I kind of thought, well, I should probably pick a team. I've been watching, I'm kind of thinking I'm going to get into this. So it's very bad, but my sport watching is based off hatred. I need somebody else to not like. So I had to find a team that had an enemy that I could root against.
Perfect.
And I also couldn't pick the best team because you can't. I've got a friend who he suddenly just became a Patriots fan and a Golden State Warriors fan. And I'm like, dude, come on. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is ridiculous.
That's so obvious too. Okay.
It's terrible. It's terrible. So the one team that stuck out was the Bruins because I couldn't really find another rivalry that was the same. Like they had the hatred, the history. They were kind of good, but they weren't amazing. So I thought, well, I'm not picking like the best team, but I'm picking a decent team. So, and that was just it. It was kind of mathematically done, so to speak. And then, that's it, isn't it? Once you pick your team, and that's, then you suck it in for life then. So
yeah, for sure. I'm glad to hear that because the thing I can't stand are these people who flip teams all the time. But I also find it difficult to watch a sport and not root for a team. Like I tried to do that with baseball because our team got ripped out from under me. Yeah. And then when my son started playing baseball again, I was like, well, I got to show him baseball right? Like if he's going to play it. So we got like, I can get games on the internet or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, we can watch the Blue Jays, but I cannot root for a Toronto team. Like it's just not going to happen. And then it's like, especially when they're calling themselves Canada's team. That drives me up the wall. And then I ended up, again, it's just really funny that you mentioned about hatred, because I ended up picking the San Francisco Giants mainly because of their hatred for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And the Los Angeles Dodgers in 1981 broke my 9-year-old heart when Rick Monday hit a home run to deny the Expos their only chance to get to the World Series.
Oh, okay.
So I hated the Dodgers, and I was like, whoa, the San Francisco Giants fans really hate the Dodgers. They have like a hashtag beat LA. Like I'm like, okay, I'm in. So I became a Giants fan.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because
I love all these stories. Yeah, especially when it's a team that you're not. My NFL team is the Dallas Cowboys, and I only picked them because I think I was 9, and they played. It was a season where they won one game, and I watched that game. I think they played the Redskins, and I thought, well, whichever team wins, I'll just pick that team. And Dallas won. It was their only win of the season. I had no idea. That was it. That was my team. And then I think 2 years after, that was the first. Then they started and they won 3 out of 4 Super Bowls. And I was like, oh, this is easy.
Yeah.
Like, this sport's great. Like, my team always wins. And obviously.
Yeah, you're doing pretty good with the Bruins, too.
I did it, yeah. God, when did I probably started watching games properly about 06 or 07, around there.
Okay, so you didn't have to wait too long.
It wasn't too bad. I've been very lucky since then. After the game last year, after Game 7 last year, I said to Will, like, how can I complain? Really, I've seen my team playing 3 cup finals in 8 years. It's that's ridiculous. And if we'd never won one, I would have been devastated. But I've at least seen my team win a cup. So I can't complain. There's like Chicago Cubs in baseball, and people have lived and died and never seen their team win ever. Yeah, like that's crazy. Like the Blues totally last year, it was their first one, or the Capitals, or things like that. So I know. Just quickly going back to Montreal, why is it? I didn't realize there was a large immigrant population from all over the world that kind of landed in Montreal. Do you know why that is?
I would not have expertise in that, but we're we're East Coast, right? So it's either you're going to land in New York City, or then you land in the Maritimes, sort of like the eastern seaboard provinces in Canada. But unless you're going to catch lobsters for a living, there's not really much you could have done there, I guess, when the whole thing came. So the biggest city actually on the in Canada when my parents immigrated was Montreal. Toronto was second.
Okay.
And what ended up happening was that we have this whole like weird quasi xenophobic, I don't know. I think it stems down to a class war, but the separation issue with Quebec and the rest of Canada. Okay. And when that whole thing happened in the late 60s, 70s, and then into the 80s, a lot of the money, which was held by English blokes, moved over to Toronto. So all the head offices moved over there, and then Toronto just became a boom town.
So does that explain some of the rivalry between Montreal and Toronto then?
Yeah, Toronto's money.
Right.
Montreal. Okay. Toronto is like the sellout city.
Okay. Yeah, this is great. This is one of the reasons why Will and I wanted to have people on who are fans from these areas, because we were like, well, we don't really know these things, like the intricacies of sort of intercity rivalries and stuff like that.
Right. And I'm no historian, but I've lived here, and just like the attitudes of, the people that I hang out with. And it's really, there was quite this, there was a book written called The Two Solitudes about the two, like the English and French community. And I find that I left Montreal for quite a number of years to go do postgraduate studies in Ontario, like outside of Toronto.
Yeah.
And so that was, I guess, between like 2002 and 2010. And then when I came back, I found that Montreal was a lot chiller in terms of like the attitudes towards language. So I think because there was another separation debate, sort of referendum happening in 1995. And there was when it didn't win, the separatist side blamed money and the ethnic vote. So it got really, it was just really a mess. And so it was depressing to live in Montreal in those times. And but then when I came back, I think this sort of quote unquote millennial generation doesn't give as much of a shit about that as the older generations did. Because I think what the whole English and French thing was that like the English had them like back in the day, like in the 30s and 40s or whatever, when Montreal was becoming this sort of industrial hub or whatever. You would have the English own the factories and lived on the hill in what's called the neighborhood's called Westmount. And it's like, because Montreal's kind of like, it's on an island and then there's like a hill in the middle of it.
Okay.
We call it the mountain, but it's not a mountain.
Okay.
So there's this hill and there's big, nice houses up there where all the English, factory owners lived. And then down by the river in these little shanty towns, was where the French people lived and worked. And Irish too. Irish were also not high on the totem pole.
Yes.
So you see the Irish and French getting along quite well. And I guess the Catholic thing works too. The English are Protestant. So there's a lot of crazy things going on. Like it's more complicated than just a language. And I think like sort of these demagogues come up and bring up that, the French culture is in jeopardy because the language, and they just use it as a prop. Like, I don't, language really isn't the issue. I mean, to me, and I had this argument with somebody on Twitter yesterday, and I got to stop doing this. but like, language is to communicate. And I've worked in English and French universities and English and French health institutions, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, all you have to do is be able to communicate ideas to people, and whether it's in English or in French, if people can understand you, you get through the day, right? And that doesn't mean that you disparage their culture or anything, and a culture can survive regardless of what language people are speaking around you, and I encourage people to promote French culture because it's interesting and it's got a lot of things to give the world culturally. In terms of that whole English-French divide, I think it stemmed from that economic inequality that was happening, and then a lot of that got shifted over to Toronto, and then right now there's a whole lot of Westmount is mostly owned by Chinese businessmen that don't even live there. So I mean, the world is changing, and I think like a lot of this right-wing kind of popularism wants to pretend that the world isn't changing. Yeah, that like things are the same, and it's like it's us against them, and unfortunately that's what's coming up again. I can see that coming up again over here with our latest government and all of this. The provincial government is a populist government, and in the federal election, most of Quebec was swept by a party that is there to quote unquote promote Quebec's interests within Canada, which basically means they're preparing for a separation. So anyway, it's ridiculous. But the Montreal Canadiens are a unifying factor with all that. Like English and French, we all love them. So that's another thing that makes the Canadiens something more than just a team in terms of fandom. I mean, originally the Canadiens were the French team. Like we had another team called the Maroons.
Yes.
And that's where all the English guys played on. And then the French guys played on the Canadiens. The Canadiens were owned and operated by rich English guys. And until recently, like the coaches could be English, the GMs could be English. The owner currently is English. But right now you can't have an English coach or an English GM. It just wouldn't fly. It's the only thing because you can't get French players anymore. There aren't enough to have a competitive team. So to have a French flavor on the team, you have to have the coach and the GM be French. I think that's my understanding of it, and I'm fine with it.
Do you think that would a coach who brought success, say there was an English coach and he said, and there's a press conference and he says, I understand I don't speak French, but I'm going to pour my heart and soul into it. I am going to learn it as quickly as I can. I understand how important it is. And he brings massive success to the team. Say he wins, I don't know, like 3 cups in 10 years or something. Does that suddenly just become, do you think it becomes forgotten? Do you think it's the kind of the great equalizer is sport success?
Yeah, I think it might happen, but there would still be, I don't know if you know anything about the media in Montreal.
This was going to be this was going to be one of my questions. And
but that would not fly. It would be,
one of the
there would
reasons
be
we wanted
so much backlash.
wanted to have you on was to get an idea about the media in Montreal, because obviously you hear about it. Even in England, the hockey media coming from Canada is dominated by Toronto. And I've ranted and raved on this show before about how I'm sick to death of hearing about the Maple Leafs and everything that they do. And, oh my God, John Tavares had this for his lunch today? I'm like, this is news? Like, what are we doing? And I guess some things are worth reporting. The Marner holdout, worth reporting. Matthews' contract, worth reporting. But then going to like random old-timey hockey players saying, what do you think about the Maple Leafs signing John Tavares then? Like, who gives, like, it's good. Like, what's the story here? There's no story. And I was wondering, is it the same in what is the fishbowl like in Montreal for players around that team and the media?
Oh, it's like it's crazy. Okay, so we have like we have one English newspaper and one English radio station that's a sports radio station. It's affiliated with TSN.
Yes.
And it's basically like the sports section of our Montreal Gazette is just basically, the columnist is just he's a troll. So basically everything that the Canadians do is a mistake. It's ridiculous. And it's like, and they probably have like 4 reporters at for one paper at the game, practice, post-game news conference, in the dressing room. And just as an example of how bad this can be, so Saku Koivu got this eye injury from, I think it was Justin Williams high-sticking him in a playoff. I can't remember the year. Yeah, so he got this crazy eye injury. And so he was put in the hospital in a secluded room in complete darkness for his eye to heal. And some moron photographer snuck into the room and took a flashbulb photo right up to his face, as to get like a sneak peek of what Saku Koivu's room is like. This is ridiculous. It's like completely ridiculous. So that's just one little snippet of what it's like. And I mean, I don't know. Often players say they don't read whatever. I think that's bullshit. I'm pretty sure you read or you hear about it anyways. I don't know. There's always this stuff about like Carey Price and his girlfriend and his wife, and like there was this whole. I didn't even get into it because I couldn't go there, about him having like children with other women and stuff, and none of this stuff is corroborated at all. There's no evidence, and it's just all this. They just throw a bunch of crap against the wall and see what sticks. And oftentimes it comes up on the radio and stuff, and it's like can we just talk about the actual games, at some point?
I know.
And stop like talking about what these players are doing off the ice. I mean, sure, if a guy is Austin Matthews, harassing people in their cars, you should out that, and then he should have consequences. But what people do in their private lives should be kept private, and I think Habs players are followed around, like what clubs they go to and all of this kind of stuff. But like the media, how they in the US, how they follow politics?
Yes.
That's how the Montreal media follows the Canadians. It's like it's exactly like, so you'll have your crazy Trumpster, Brexiter types, and you'll have your Homer types. You'll have your hater types. But there's so many of them that they all have a voice. It's not just like one go. There's like 5 of them, so it's loud. So it's kind of crazy, and I can see why some players would shy away from it. But at the same time, I think if you've got the guts to play this crazy game that is hockey, I mean, I think you'd want to try to win in the craziest market that there is. But that's just me. I don't know.
Would you say the majority of fans will buy into this newspaper talk, do you think? Or do you think most of them are smart to what's going on in regards to it? It's just they're just looking for clicks or headlines, or do you kind of hear people saying like, oh my God, I can't believe what Jonathan Drouin is doing at this place? Or does it go like that, or are most fans kind of aware of what the media's doing?
I think most are aware. I think so, but I mean, I don't know. Like in the circuits that I navigate through, I mean, like my friends or the people that I interact with on Twitter or whatever, we know that it's just bullshit, and we roll our eyes to that kind of stuff. But I mean, if they're selling papers, I'm sure it's working on somebody.
Yeah, I know. That's the God. We have that weird thing over here that, like, I've only just started to realize that my dad's a complete idiot. Like, and it's driving me insane. And me and him had like a tempestuous relationship anyway. But when you were saying before about the English people being in Montreal and living on the high hill and looking down on everyone else, and I was just thinking, well, yeah, that's what English people do.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't understand. Like, you would think the older people who live in England would understand what has gone on in this country and our history, and none of them seem to get it. None of them seem to understand what's going on. And it's my generation that's read and studied and realizes that, oh God, the war, oh my God. You would think that we won the war on our own and that was it. We had no help from anybody and no one else did anything, and it was just us and the entire rest of the world. And I'm like,
and then once it's won, slap, 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 it's done, right? We did it.
Yeah.
We beat all the Nazis and there's no more ever.
Aren't we great? Dad, do you understand what we've done on this planet? We're terrible. We are terrible. And just you saying that, like, okay, yeah, so obviously we did that in Canada as well. Great. Like, okay, we kind of tried to rule over Montreal and then we burnt that to the ground and went, oh, we'll go to Toronto instead. Okay, like, taking over Toronto, that's great. You had to say to him, do you not understand it was essentially the Soviet Union that won the war and Hitler's mistakes? It had nothing to do with us. Nothing to do with us. The Soviet Union just kept throwing human sacrifice at the problem until it was fixed.
It was just like fodder.
My dad will still read the paper. We have 24-hour news cycles. Yeah. You can look at the news as it's happening right now, and you're deciding to read what happened yesterday, maybe. That's what you're doing.
Exactly, yeah.
And
it's someone's opinion of what happened yesterday.
Alrighty, thank you to Ken. Part 2 next week. Let's go into the news. Let's just start with Babcock and get out of the way. There's like 127 articles on it, which all essentially boil down to the same thing. He lost the dressing room. A lot of the players thought he was full of shit. They didn't like his methods, so he's gone. That's it.
Cool. What next?
Right. 2 regulation wins in 16 games, and they have less wins than the Sens do right now, which is something amazing.
Crazy. Less regulation wins than the Sens.
There are less regulation wins than the Sens do right now, which is fantastic. So, Sheldon Keefe is in. The only thing I will say about this is that all of Dubas's chips are on the table and he has gone into the middle all in.
I mean, kind of. But, like, he didn't hire Mike Babcock. It's not like, say, Jim Dillon Dallas, who's on his 3rd coach. And it's like, right, if he fires Jim Montgomery or whatever, not that he will now, but, if he... Dubas isn't at the end of his tether, at the end of his leash, I don't think. And if he is, that's very unfair, because he's basically done all you can expect him to do. And he's just had a coach that hasn't bought into the team that he's built.
No, that's true. That is true. Tyson Barrie was the main, I guess you would say, like the main point of argument here, wasn't he? Was that half of the media were saying, well, why don't you just trade him if you're not going to use him? And the other half were saying, well, why don't you just use him properly? Why don't you just try him on the top power play unit, quarterbacking it, because that's what he does.
Yep.
Sheldon Keefe is known as being a very good coach. I think he's going to use play. I mean, as we discussed with Mark when we did our first ever interview, the fact they used Austin Matthews for 15 minutes in that whole game 7 or something was ridiculous. You can see that you can drive and push these younger players. Look at Edmonton right now. Connor and Leon Draisaitl. Yeah, just keep going. Just keep playing. You want to play? Go and play. Keep playing. I think we're going to see Sheldon Keefe use a lot more of that. He's going to use his top players, which is something Babcock didn't do. And he's going to give his skilled players more of a chance.
I was just going to touch on like the usage thing, and like there are people piling on, saying, "Oh, what was Babcock meant to do? He's not had the team that's built for him." It's like, well, at the end of the day, who's got more sort of authority in the team building process? Like the GM builds the team, and the coach has to coach the team. The coach doesn't necessarily have any input in. Most coaches, at least, don't have any input in the acquisitions. So and the GM's the coach's boss. So it's like, right, I've given you this team, use it to the best of their abilities. As has been plain as day for like 18 months now, Mike Babcock has basically refused to use that team how it should be used.
Yeah.
So to blame here he goes again. To blame the Maple Leafs' woes on either Kyle Dubas or an abundance of skill is just incorrect. It's just not right. It's mismanagement of incredible assets. If you get yourself a Ferrari, and you
go on,
Where am I going with this? Get yourself a Ferrari and you strap a grand piano to the roof of it and fill the fuel tank with piss, and then you complain it's not going very fast. Yes, because you're a dickhead. And in this example, the Leafs are the Ferrari, Cody Cece's the piano.
Who are you going to compare to piss, Will? Let's go.
Who am I going to compare to piss? That is a very good question. Austin Matthews only getting 15 minutes a night is the piss.
Oh, good. That's good. Okay, yeah,
thank you very much. Good. And Mike Babcock is the dickhead. Like, that's the long and short of it. He's not used this team properly at all, to a point of just defiance. Not even ignorance or incompetence. It's defiance. It reeks to me, and not to sound like, Norwich's best Mike Commodore impersonator, but it does reek of that arrogance that Mike Commodore's always talking about. It's like, oh, I know best. I've coached Team Canada. I've won 2 Stanley Cups, or however many he's won, and all that nonsense. Like, the whole thing of Babcock always got praised for, at the Olympics and stuff, getting superstar players to play non-superstar roles. And that's how supposedly Team Canada had their success. I can definitely see that same thing playing out, and him just saying to like Austin Matthews or whoever, or Jason Spezza, whoever it might be, oh, well, if it was good enough to win me an Olympic gold and I got, Ryan Getzlaf to play as a checking line centre, then you can do it too, you uppity little shit. It's like, no, mate, it's not. It's dumb.
So I'll tell you what I'm reading, hearing around. This is before the sacking, before the firing, I would say, sorry.
The ransacking of Castle Babcock.
Well, yeah, footy managers get sacked, don't they? Coaches get fired. The narrative was that the Avs and Joe Sakic worked over Dubas in taking Barry for Kadri, as the Avs didn't even need Tyson Barry because they knew what Cale Makar was going to be. And Dubas should have realised that and not given up a player with the grit and the jam, Will, of Nazem Kadri. As I said before, I love revisionist history.
Yeah, that's the thing. The Leafs still got out on the better end of that deal, I think, if you use Tyson Barry properly. If Jared Bednar was putting Nazem Kadri on the 4th line, stapling him with a couple of AHL goons, then yeah, he's probably not going to be as effective. But and same thing with Cale Makar. If he staples him to the 3rd pairing and doesn't give him any power play time, then he's probably going to be as effective as Tyson Barry has been this year. So it's like, you can't compare the two situations at all.
No, you're right. You're right for sure. The talk is he going to be... I mean, the crisis already started. No wonder, bloody hell, like Toronto is such a fucking hard market to play in. As Ken mentions in his interview, the lack of privacy of any hockey players in sort of major Canadian markets is terrifying. And already the argument is, well, Keefe's never managed an NHL before. What do you expect? What's he going to do? What's he going to do? And I'm just thinking, the Penguins won 2 cups in a row with a guy they brought up from the AHL. The Bruins got to the cup final last year with a coach they brought up from the AHL. Craig Berube last year won the Stanley Cup. I think Sheldon Keefe's going to be fine. I think he'll do okay.
Yeah. It's not like he's just some geezer off the street. It's not, I know. He wasn't just doing admin for a local bank or whatever. And they're like, oh, do you want to coach the Leafs? Yeah, all right. He was a professional hockey player. He's played over 100 games in the AHL. And he's been coaching... Sheldon, can you
stop photocopying those pamphlets? Kyle Dubas is on the phone. He needs to talk to you quickly.
Oh, I was expecting this call. Like, he's been...
What took you so long, Kyle? Jesus.
If you're saying, like, oh, can Sheldon Keefe handle coaching in Toronto? Yes, he's been coaching in Toronto for 4 years. Like,
I know.
It's... what are we even talking about here? There's just...
I'm just gonna parrot this as well.
No, please.
Is that the media, and I was just like TSN, Sportsnet, all that kind of shit, all going on about how Dubas handled the contracts terribly. Shouldn't have given into. I know. Hang on.
I know, yeah,
shouldn't have given Shouldn't have given in to Nylander at the start. It caused a domino effect. Why did he give Austin Matthews a blank check for 5 years? Because then that caused the ripple effect where now they can't even go out and get a backup goaltender. Obviously Hutchinson gets sent down. They're bringing Kaskasuo. Fucking hell! I watched that game, not all of it because obviously I was fell asleep, but I watched most of that game, and dude, they absolutely hung him out to dry in his first NHL game. He just got no help at all. They were awful for him. Then the next day, why did Dubas do that with those contracts? Now we can't even go out and get a goalie. Like, what are we supposed to do? Do I agree with it? Maybe a little bit. It's like like I say, every single little decision is questioned, and then even the ripple effects of those decisions are questioned.
The Leafs are tight to the cap. There's no question about it. But they're not the only team that's tight to the cap. And the problem isn't...
No, loads are this season. Loads.
Exactly. The problem isn't the big four forwards. The problem is, if you're going to have a go at Dubas for anything, it's giving Cody Ceci close to $5 million on the cap. There's a backup goaltender right there. And it's an embarrassment of riches. They're having to pay their other guys that fill around, your Andreas Jonssons, your Kapanens, your Hymans, your Kafuts. They're having to pay them more than other people pay players in those positions, like on the lineup, because they're better than a lot of other teams' players in those lineups. Like, it's not... you've got third-line wingers multiple third-line players making over $3 million a year. And that's because they're good, because they're worth it. There aren't many contracts that Dubas has got bad value out of. He's just had to pay players, and to his credit, kept hold of these players while they're still good. The one that made my absolute jaw drop, because you expect the ones of, we shouldn't have paid that soft Euro Nylander. It's people saying they shouldn't have signed John Tavares. It's like, what are you even talking about? Idiots everywhere. Like, there is nothing that brings out the idiocy in the hockey population better than the Maple Leafs.
Aren't sports fans the best?
They're crazy. I just wanted to touch on quickly, as you brought up the media surrounding the Leafs. I can't remember exactly what it was. I saw a tweet from Damien Cox a couple of days ago, and I just wanted to remind the world that he is the biggest idiot out there. The dumbest guy in media is Damien Cox.
I thought you were going to read the tweet then or something.
No, I can't remember what it is.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Just he's dumb.
But the
fine,
point
no
is,
problem.
it doesn't matter. Like, Damien Cox is an idiot. Just to remind everyone that Damien Cox is a fucking idiot and should be treated as such.
All right then, fair enough. The second team I wanted to talk about, trade rumours, players not performing, insane takes coming from every corner. Team is seen as an early contender, but now it's struggling. Will, is the sky also falling in Calgary?
It seemed that way, yeah. And again, we were talking about...
Because if Zach Ronaldo's your saviour...
That's what I'm talking about,
trouble.
mate. 200 hockey idiots. Similar to what we were saying about the Islanders, like, the Flames aren't great. They had one good year last year, and suddenly people are surprised that they're not doing that good this year. Like, when their star player's not having a very good year. Like, what? The maths isn't simple, people. It isn't hard. It's not like the Lightning are suddenly falling apart, or the Bruins or whatever. It's not the same as the Maple Leafs at all, because the Flames don't have a very good team.
Yeah, they when they played the Avs, I think it was last night or the night before, it was their first. They scored their first even strength goal in 224 minutes. Fucking hell.
That's the thing that makes me
That's insane.
balmy, and that's the sort of the proof of it all. That's why we shouldn't be surprised if a team is bad enough that they can go three and a half games without scoring a single goal. You're a bad team. Like, you're not in a rut. You've got 18 skaters on your team who've cumulatively played 200 minutes. They went without a goal. So that's
220.
Oh, well, even well, it's over 3,600 minutes of hockey that has been played between those players, and not one of them scored a goal. Sack a lot of them. Move that team to where were they going to move to?
Oh, I don't know.
Houston, move him to Houston. Get rid of them all.
There we go. Yeah, Houston.
Give James Harden a pair of skates. Jesus Christ!
I got some more flame stats for you as well.
Please.
No team has chased more leads. Nearly 11 whole games worths they've been behind in games.
Yeah,
and they're producing a whole goal less than they were last season.
What, on average?
Yeah,
See,
per game.
That's not as shocking when you think that they haven't scored a goal for 3 games.
Oh, I know, but still, they're the second.
Yeah.
The second worst team in terms of goals scored.
If anything, that's more damning of how not necessarily particularly good they were last year. They were good, but they weren't incredible. If you've gone 3 games without scoring a goal and you're still only 1 goal behind your average of last year.
Yeah, but dude, they won the Western Conference last year. They couldn't have been that bad.
Yeah, but you can win games and still not be a very good team.
I mean, I guess.
Or you could be a fluky team, and that's if you're winning games and not scoring many goals, then you're a fluky team.
Over 82 games, that's a big fluke. And there was an article this week that Johnny Gaudreau should be traded.
Yeah,
because the rumour is that the playbook is out on him, which is you stop him passing and let him shoot because he has noodly arms. And I mean, he's only got 2 goals in 18 games, so maybe they're onto something.
No one was saying that about Jamie Benn, old noodly arms Ben, who had until the other day the same number of goals in more games. Like, mate, again, I think the theme of this week is going to be that people are just idiots. Yeah, trading your best player is how you improve your team. That's definitely it. That is
your most skilled player as well. Like,
that's it. Are we having the same? As I said moments ago, we're not having the same conversation about Jamie Benn, are we? We're not having the same conversation about.
That's true.
Who is a good power forward nowadays? Because Jamie Benn definitely ain't it. If he's Blake Wheeler, if Blake Wheeler goes on a blooming scoring drought, which he is, nobody's saying, "Oh, it's because he's got noodle arms. Those arms are too big." I understand it because you don't know what to do. If you knew what to do to fix the team, then you talk about that. So you don't know, but you have to talk about something. So you talk about trading Johnny Gaudreau. It's just asinine. It's moronic.
How long has Bill Peters got then? Do you think?
Probably to the end of the year. He was only hired last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, true. That's a good point. I think you give him a bit longer at least.
Yeah,
to try and turn it
I doubt he gets fired this year unless they go particularly worse.
Well, I don't know if you know this or not, but there's a former Stanley Cup winning coach on the market.
Oh
so,
my God!
No. Just you. I'm surprised. It hasn't even started yet. Hey, Mike Babcock's available. Why doesn't he go and coach here?
Yeah, it will, and he probably will get picked up. I reckon he'll do what Quenneville did. He won't go to another team this year. But yeah, there'll be people falling arse over tit to get him next year.
And the last team I wanted to talk about, which is a team who's won 1 out of 8, conceding 34 goals in those 8 games. And in that time, they've lost to the Flames, as we mentioned, on a massive downturn. The Rangers, not very good. The Sharks, also not great. The Canucks, also having a shit show right now. And the Blackhawks, also not considered to be contenders. None of those are particularly good. And this team also got destroyed 9-4 by the Colorado Avalanche. First off, Will, why isn't anybody talking about the problems in Nashville?
I didn't even know any of that.
There you go. They've won 1 out of 8.
That's not that many games, though, is it?
Yes. It's 1 out of 8.
Yeah, but like, in the grand scheme of things, like you can go on a couple of years ago.
Scheme of things.
When you're the winningest GM in the history of the league, Dan. He's 2,000 games.
They're second last in your conference. They're second last in your division.
In the Will Everett division. Teams have long winning streaks and long losing streaks in the season and still make the playoffs.
There's only 3 teams who are worse than them in the Western Conference. That's the Sharks, the Wild, and the Kings. That's not good.
Still better than the Sharks. Sharks are a great team. They've got to be doing something right. It's not good. It's not good.
I thought you'd be more stunned by that.
I am pretty stunned, but it's not. That's just 1 8-game stretch, though.
You can prove anything with facts.
You can. You really can. Sorry, the other.
Need I remind you that the Leafs have just lost 6 in a row and fired their coach. The Flames are on a massive downturn, and the Vultures are already circling for Bill Peters. Yeah, and you're like, the Preds have lost. The Preds have won 1 in 8. They'll be all right. Yeah, they're fine.
Peter Laviolette's not got Roman Yossi as a backup goalie and playing Matt Duchene 4th line left wing with like Colton Sissons and Austin Watson, is he?
Here's my question. I'm glad you brought up Peter Laviolette. Is it time for a change? Is it time for a change of voice? Is that his voice now does not carry the same weight as it used to? And the players are now just tuning him out or whatever.
Yeah, potentially.
He sacked Kyle Turris against the Jets as well.
Yeah, but that shouldn't be news at this point. Like, Kyle Turris is washed.
True. I mean, the good news is he's only got 4 years left after this year at $6 million a year, so that's good.
Mate, that's such an unfortunate one. Like, who could have seen that happening? But at the same time, Nashville shouldn't have been so hasty to extend him, I don't think. So the Predators have won 1 in their last 8, yeah? So before that, they'd won 8 out of 12. So they're on a slip, but they're not doing that badly.
There's only 3 teams worse than them in the Western Conference.
Yeah, today. What day is it? What didn't you say earlier that the standings don't matter until after Christmas anyway?
I mean, yeah, I said that, but...
I only meant it for that moment.
Yeah, that only mattered then. That was then, Will. This is now.
This is fucking now. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, it's not good, but I wouldn't be too worried.
I would be.
Would you?
We said, yeah, because I'm going to, in a Barry Horowitz style, pat myself on the back here. We did say at the start of the season, we said, do you like that centre depth? And we both said no. Like Cal Turris, Matt Duchene, Ryan Johansson, was it Nick Bonino maybe?
Bonino.
Yeah. I am sure we both picked the Preds to be one of our teams to like drop off.
That sounds about right, doesn't it? Because Ryan Johansson's not very good.
Yeah. And we thought Matt Duchene was, cursed.
Which would appear.
Which would appear now.
You got 2 ex-Ottawa Senator centres on your team, or what? What are you doing? That's not how you assemble a good team. Who could have foreseen
these problems?
Who could have possibly seen that happening? And the curse of getting rid of PK Subban.
Just want to mention as well, the 2 goalies as well. Combined save percentage, 892. Combined goals against, 3.14.
Good thing they don't play both goalies at the same time.
That's true. At the time, yeah, extending Pecorino seems like a good idea. Maybe this is now, like we've said, the drop-off is quick. And it's like one season you're fine, the next season you're not. And you just hope that, you just keep going one more, and you're fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now, the whole team is in trouble.
The last thing I'd say on the Predators, so you keep saying they're third from bottom in the West. They have played the least amount of games in the West. And are still above 500. And have 2 games in hand on the second wild card. And if they win both of those games in hand, they go above Vancouver. Well, it's not panic mode. They're third from bottom. That's because the middle's so close.
It's all ifs, buts, and maybes, Will. The point of this whole thing, though, was... I mean, I know the answer already, but it's interesting that the Leafs and the Flames hit the skids, and that's all the media's talking about. Yeah, I just stumbled onto this Nashville news, and no one's talking about it.
You've made the great discovery. Someone get Elliot Friedman on the phone. He needs to hear about this.
I think NHL history girl Jen has got a rival for her Indiana Jones moniker, because I've just uncovered this absolute treasure of information.
You're more modern day facts, so you're like a Poirot, but for but for the standings. Hang on a second. If I look under this last 10 column, it shows me.
But it's interesting though. A team that everyone thought was going to be there or thereabouts again at the end of the year, they win 1 out of 8 and no news about it at all. Yeah,
it's very curious, very very curious.
But maybe they're all glass half full reporters like you, Will.
I don't know if I'd necessarily brand myself with that sort of brush.
Matt Calvert. Let's quickly discuss this.
Fucking hell.
Here's Pedersen with a shot. Calvert with a save. I think he got it off the helmet, and he is down. Here's Edler. Play continues with Calvert down in the offensive zone. Miller works it across. There's a snapshot. They score. Edler taps it in while Calvert is down on the ice.
Yeah, and immediately Trainer jumps on the ice to go and attend to him. Never like to see that. But for the Canucks, they just stayed focused and continued to make the play. Calvert was down for an extended period of time.
All right, who's to blame? The refs, the players, player safety, the NHL in general, the culture. Have at it, Will. What do you think?
It's the refs and the players. Obviously, the NHL at fault in not making the rules clearer, for not responding to when this has happened previously, Zach Werenski a couple of years ago. But those who had the chance to enact change, act in the heat of the moment, were the refs, and nobody's saying enough, the Vancouver Canucks players who continued to carry on and play and score that goal. They could have. I'll bring you back to footy again.
I know what you're going to say.
Player goes down injured, you kick it into touch, don't you?
Yeah.
You hoof it down the other end of the park, and there's like a gentleman's agreement that the goalie sends it back the other way, so the team who had possession initially get their possession back, but the injured player gets treated, and there's no sort of disadvantage to the team for having a player that's gone down injured. In what world are you saying to me that the Canucks couldn't have played it up into the netting and sacrificed a face-off outside of the offensive zone for Matt Calvert's obvious need, or even just a floater of a shot directly at the goalie that you could cover, and then you still get your offensive zone draw, and then Matt Calvert gets the attention that he needs. Like, obviously the refs should have stopped it, but the buck doesn't stop with them. Anyone who defends the Canucks by saying, you played to the whistle, like, don't be a moron. Don't be he keeps us bleeding from his head. And you think that's okay to just carry on. And there's no way in hell that they don't notice Calvert down on the ground.
Which, did you see Patterson? He just kept looking down like, what do you want me to do here? Should I do something? Should I stop? Like, he was the only one who seemed to kind of notice what was going on and have any real concern.
And I'm glad that Patterson had some concern, but in some ways that's worse. He's acknowledged what's gone on. It doesn't take the entire team by committee to stop skating. You just need one player to stop. So right, that's that. We're not doing it.
Now, well, I'm not saying that we've created some kind of cult here and that we've formed a hive mind, but I swear to God, I wrote down on my notes, why doesn't the NHL have a drop ball type situation?
Yeah.
Well,
they do. It's called a face-off.
Well, no, that's different though, because you can lose control of the face-off. Because in a drop ball, you give possession back to the other team immediately. I suppose, because the face-off's too close. I feel as though that, how about this, right? The Canucks just pick up possession from the Avs blue line. The puck gets placed in the middle of the Avs blue line, 5-on-4, whatever it is, 5-on-5, whatever, and you just pick up possession from there. So you're in the offensive zone, but you're not super close to the goal, so you have a chance to at least start something.
How about that? As nice an idea as that is, Dan, like, nah. They've injured Matt Calvert.
Not on purpose.
Yeah, not saying there should be any penalties or whatever, but give over.
But if you're giving up, if you injure a player and you give up the puck, you just give it to the goalie to ice it or whatever. It's unfair then if you've given up the puck to then lose the puck from a face-off. You should at least have the chance to get the puck back immediately for free. If you're choosing to give it up from good sportsmanship.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Because then nobody would give it. Because then you'd be right now. Nobody would give it up. You wouldn't give it up, would you?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You'd keep playing because I'm not going to risk losing the puck in a face-off. If it's like because it now becomes like a 5 on. Or if you're on a power play, it becomes a 5-on-3. You're like, well, 5-on-3 is way better chance of scoring than a 5-on-4. I'm not going to let them get a man back on the ice and then lose the puck from a face-off.
Yeah, like I don't know what the solution is for that.
It's mine. I've just told you it's mine.
Well, I'm choosing to not agree with that as the solution. But like that's a bigger picture thing anyway. Like the Matt Calvert situation, that's the NHL needed to rectify the rules and the clarity around that. Like in this particular moment, the Canucks should have swallowed the pride or whatever, and realised, right, as a human being bleeding out of arguably the most important region of his body right there in front of me, and I've valued the result in a rather ultimately meaningless hockey game is more important than that human safety, and it's disgusting.
Speaking of Canucks, Jason Garrison, I don't know if you saw this, the former Canucks D-man is suing his former financial advisor.
What, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson?
It's Mr. Richard Jones is being sued by Jason Garrison, who is alleging that he sold him a series of unsuitable investment vehicles and insurance policies, which ended up costing him more than his entire $27.6 million 6-year NHL contract.
No way.
Yeah. My only I'm not going to get into the whole particulars about it, because there's a huge article about this out there that if anyone wants to read it, they can. But this is just more, you don't realise the perils of being rich in the second you get money, and this is something as just normal people we don't get or will never get, is that the second you get money, the vultures start circling, and any of them get a whiff of any kind of spare cash you have, they will immediately come to you and be like, oh, I've got this idea, how about this investment? Because there are shysters out there who, I'm not saying for the sake of legal course, I'm not saying Mr. Jones is a shyster, obviously, but there are shysters out there who want to take advantage of people the second you get any kind of cash or any kind of spare money.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, not knowing the situation perfectly, saying he sold him bad investments, like, isn't that the whole point of investments? Like, it's a bit of a gamble. Or is it?
Well, yeah, but it's okay. There is also a couple of other things. Is that it's also alleged that Rich Jones copied Jason Garrison's signature onto some documents.
There you go.
And modified other documents after Garrison had signed them.
Okay, yeah, that's worth being sued for, rather than just
yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it's the idea is as well is that if I sell you an investment for $1 million and I tell you it's going to make you $5 million, but I know it's bad, well then you can sue me, because I'm giving you financial advice. That's what That's what Garrison's saying. He's telling me these are good investments and I won't lose X, Y, or Z, and instead it ends up costing him even more than he ever thought.
Yeah.
Investment is the idea is it's a risk, but if you're being sold it and the risk is different to what you're being sold, then yeah, that is obviously something you can be sued for.
Well, surely it's Garrison's fault for having poor judgment.
Maybe the judge will say that to him in the court case.
Yeah, like it's not. What's the guy's name?
Richard Jones.
Richard Jones. It's not Richard Jones's fault that Jason Garrison believed that he's good at his job.
Dude, that's an insane thing to say.
I mean, yeah, the forging of the signatures is absolutely ridiculous, and yeah, he should be sued for that. But what guy says, yeah, this one's probably good, and then it's not Richard Jones's fault. It's not like he shorted the investment or something.
Just for example, right? If I come to you and say, "Can you lend me $5,000?" and you say, "Well, no, I haven't got that kind of money," I'm like, "Dude, honestly, I've got all this paperwork. It's fine, and it's all bollocks." Like, if I provide you with tons and tons and tons of paperwork and you read through it and look at it and you're like, oh my God, this is actually a really good idea. I can make $12,000 back next year. That's worth it. And then I just do one with the money. You can't be like, oh, you got me.
That's not what's happened here.
What a fool I was. What a maroon.
That's not what's happened here. That's like me going to you, or you going to me and say, oh, do you want to paint my house? Yeah, all right. So I'll pay you for it. All right, then. I've got no experience painting my house. It's not my fault that you've asked me to paint your house. And then if I do a bad job, you say you've done a crap job there as well.
No. Hang on. No, Richard Jones is a financial advisor.
Yeah.
He's not just some dude off the street. Those are people you're meant to trust with money. That's why they're financial advisors. They advise you on money.
There's, just like any job, there's good financial advisors and then there's bad ones. And it would appear that Richard Jones is unfortunately not a particularly skilled financial advisor.
Fucking hell, dude. It's an insane take. All right then. In this situation, who's the Ferrari? Who's the tank of piss? And who's the grand piano?
I don't know if it's quite.
The tank of piss has to be all of Garrison's money.
No. The Ferrari's the money. The Ferrari's the money. Richard Jones is the piss.
Allegedly.
Allegedly piss, and the
grand piano is Jason Garrison.
No, the investments maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I fucking love the Ferrari grand piano tank of piss analogy.
So,
oh my god!
Right, the Ferrari is Garrison's estate, yeah, for his money. Richard Jones works at the Quick Fit / petrol station, and he's filling up the tank with the piss and saying, "Yeah, premium unleaded, mate. Don't worry about it." And he's chucked this grand piano on top of this Ferrari. He's like, "Oh, don't worry, mate. It's like a turbo booster." And then Jason Garrison's driven away. He's like, "You've ruined my car." So, sorry, mate. I run the lowest rated garage in all of Vancouver, British Columbia.
What I love about this is that you think Jason Garrison is going around vetting every single financial advisor.
Well, you should.
Why?
Like, I'm going to trust this geezer with millions of dollars. Like, you're not even going to check out like a Yelp review of him.
How do you know he didn't? And this guy, allegedly, may have given him all these bullshit documents that don't prove anything, but they look legit and look real. Like, that's the point.
It is, to an extent, Jason Garrison's fault for not checking out that Richard Jones is any good at his job.
I like at the start of this, you came out with, of course, I don't know all the facts. And now you're like, Jason Garrison's a fucking idiot, isn't he?
I think Richard Jones is the real victim of this slander by Jason Garrison.
He should counter-sue. That's what he should be doing.
He should, if only Jason Garrison had any money left.
You can't. You flitted it all the way on piss-filled Ferraris. It's ridiculous. A sad end for Corey Schneider, who was placed on waivers this week with, let's be honest, no chance of anyone picking him up due to his salary and his dire performance the past couple of years. Which is weird because at one point he was a very, very good goalie.
Well, yeah, Corey Schneider is a Ferrari who turned into a grand piano full of piss.
This season as well, 0-4-1, 852 save percentage, 459 goals against. As we talk, he has a 918 career save percentage, and that's even being on some pretty shitty teams.
And having 3 bad years in a row.
I honestly think he came back from his injury too soon. I think he, or maybe it was the injury, obviously the injury that just did him in, and that he never fully recovered from it and just tried to keep going. But
it can happen. Like he's no spring chicken anymore, is he?
No, not at all. I think he's 33. I want to say.
Yeah, sure. I'll believe you there. Happens to skaters. This can happen to goalies. Like, it's just how it is, isn't it? He's 33. He's old enough to be bad.
So there you go. Well done, Corey.
That's it.
You've earned the right to be terrible.
Congratulations. Don't worry, nobody's going to be too angry at you.
How long has he got left on his deal? Yeah, 2 years. Yeah, this year and then another 2 years after this.
I smell a buyout.
Consider's got a full no trade as well.
Ooh, that's rough. What's he, 6 mil?
Yeah, 6 mil.
Sort of buyout would be 4 years at 3 mil, which is not too bad, really, is it?
Yeah, I suppose.
Bearable.
Still not great though.
Not ideal. So while he's down in the AHL, you get $1 million knocked off your cap, don't you?
Yes, that's what I thought it was.
I think contracts under $1 million are just wiped completely, and anything above that just has $1 million deducted from it. Yeah, so you're still making a 2 mil saving against the cap for 2 years at least. We will see.
He's going to get bought out, though, isn't he? No one's going to pick him up, are they?
No. Are they, Ek?
Last thing, as always, man versus 8-year-old Will.
Hey, Will, you schmuck. You're going to get roasted by an 8-year-old, you fool.
Here's the thing. Okay, the thing is, right.
I like where this is
It's
going.
only a game. You know. It's not like anyone's keeping scores. So with that, here are the scores.
It's specifically, the whole point of the game is keeping scores and predicting scores. I'm
I'm just trying to find a way to soften this blow, Will. And I'm glad I put all of this on tape last week because my daughter went 5 for 5 last week.
No.
Dude, she picked fucking Columbus to beat the Blues and she picked the Devils to beat the Penguins. And it's all on record.
It's not on.
She went 5 for 5.
That's... So how many back am I now? Because didn't I say if I get 10 back, then I'm retiring?
Yeah, you said if you get to 10, it's mercy rule. So it's fine. It's only 6, but that's not the point.
That's, 6 is all right. 6 is surmountable.
Yeah, it's early days. No, well, the scores don't even matter till after Christmas. We all know that. So
unless you get you can't win it in November, Dan, but you can sure as hell lose it in November.
but you can lose it. Oh bloody hell! All right, here's this week's games: Panthers Ducks.
Panthers.
Yeah, she chose the Panthers because they can bite the Ducks. Fair enough.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Blackhawks Lightning.
Ooh, Hawks.
Okay, she chose the Lightning because they can strike them and flash them.
Excuse me, George. That's disgraceful.
Coyotes Leafs.
Well, Leafs. It's obviously the Leafs. That's tonight, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. She chose the Leafs because they can get in the Coyotes' eyes.
See, I feel like there's not sort of consistent logic being applied to all of it, you know.
What, for my 8-year-old daughter? No, I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying the facts.
That's true. Flyers Flames?
Flyers Flames. Flames Flyers. Flyers, I think.
Okay. She chose the Flames as they can burn them.
But
okay.
Them. I'm glad that she's got no explanation for what a flyer is. Just them.
No. That's probably why she picked the Flames. And then Canadians Rangers.
Canadians.
Okay, and she picked the Rangers because she likes the name more. Which may have been the first 8-year-old choice she's made yet. There we go. Thank you, folks, listening this week. Thank you to Ken for being on the show. Will, any last words?
Like, rate, and subscribe.
Take care, folks. We'll see you later.
Peace.